To discuss things further, we are now being joined by Edward P. Joseph, live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Joseph is a political analyst and a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. Welcome to the broadcast, sir. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
You know, the first and most obvious questions, how long do you feel Israel can continue battling on all fronts? And there are threats which are continuously coming in. How long will this continue?
Well, the Israelis seem to be fairly confident about their ability to sustain the operations that they need to. In terms of the actual fronts, the most likely activity, of course, would be in Gaza. And we should remember here, put everything in perspective for your viewers, that this war began 2 weeks ago when Hamas launched it. It's very important to keep that in mind. This is a war Israel did not want. It suffered, as your report accurately mentioned, a mass terror attack on October 7th, just 2 weeks ago. And already people have forgotten about those graphic, gruesome details about, for example, intentional killing of babies, of infants, the slaughter of some 250 young people at a concert. That's what propelled this. This is a mass terror attack that for Israel, compared to its population, those civilian casualties are staggering. Some 1,400 Israelis were killed. So that's the context here for this. This is a war that Hamas launched, and that's the focus in Gaza, going after Hamas, not intentionally going after Palestinian civilians, although they are caught in the middle of this, and of course suffer from the blockade on Gaza. Absolutely true. Now, when we come to potential expansion, the first place we look is not Syria, and of course not Yemen, but we look first towards Lebanon and Hezbollah, which, as your report also accurately mentioned, is under total Iranian support and, if not, direct operational control. Now, for Hezbollah, it's not so simple. It's not just a simple matter of Hezbollah saying, oh, well, we'll take advantage of this opportunity while Israel is deploying troops and potentially on the ground in Gaza. Well, for Hezbollah, there are risks there. Hezbollah has its hands full within Lebanon itself. Lebanon is in a severe state of division, and Hezbollah is locked into tension and conflict with its counterparts within Lebanon itself. So it is not risk-free for Lebanon to simply mount an operation against Israel, and there may be disputes and differences between Iran and Hezbollah about whether or not it wants to engage with Israel. But at this point, again, Israel seems to be confident about its ability to handle.
Israel seems confident that they can
fronts.
continue
Please.
for as long as this is what essentially you mentioned.
Professor, also, let's talk about the role of the international community as well, with the United States, China positioning military assets in the region. Do you feel that such a flex of muscle, it can act as any sort of a deterrent at this point?
I think that was entirely the intention. Immediately, President Biden has moved swiftly. You know, all of this talk about President Biden being too old and so forth, that this has all disappeared. They've seen him be a vigorous hands-on commander-in-chief. The United States immediately moved 2 aircraft carriers into the waters nearby as a strong deterrent signal. President Biden himself, of course, made that dramatic visit to Israel. This was in the midst, of course, of what appears to be, based on what U.S. intelligence, and also I should mention here, French intelligence, says was a bogus claim by Hamas that Israel struck the hospital in Gaza City on October 17th, causing, according to Hamas, hundreds of casualties. A terrible event for those Palestinian civilians there. But Hamas has not been able to provide any evidence, refuses to. It's been asked by media outlets in the United States and cannot. And meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal has put together a video showing that very likely that deadly strike on that missile that killed terribly some hundreds or more Palestinian civilians was due to a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket that misfired and struck the parking lot. So that's where that issue stands, please.
Mr. Joseph, I just want to now, just take this a little further. We talk about Hamas, we talked about Hezbollah, we mentioned about the Houthi rebels. Now, they all have links to Iran. My question is, who is backing Iran that they are funding all these militias who are essentially targeting Israel as of now? But who is standing behind Iran? Or is it Iran, do they have the resources to carry out this multi-pronged war through its proxies?
It's a great question that you ask, because it takes us exactly to Iran's priorities. Iran's priorities are not its citizens. We've seen that. We've seen that graphically, where Iran's citizens rise up in protest against Iran, and they're killed by Iran. So Iran doesn't care about the welfare of its citizens. It continues to work on its nuclear weapons program. The Biden administration wanted to get back into the nuclear weapons deal, lift the sanctions, and Iran refused to accept the deal on that, to restore and return to the Iran nuclear deal. Instead, Iran wants to make and project this destabilization in the region. That is the primary focus. This is a regime that is determined to destabilize, to create havoc, to kill people. You know, you mentioned Syria. We should. It's very important for your viewers to put this conflict in Gaza in perspective. Gaza has about a little over 2 million citizens. In Syria, neighboring Syria, with Iranian support, get this, 6 times the population of Gaza have been displaced. 6 times, about 14 million Syrians have been displaced by the war there, launched by Bashar Assad with the full backing of Iran. The death toll in Syria, over 300,000. That's according to conservative UN estimates. Over 300,000. So this dwarfs what we've seen here in this 2 weeks. Of course, the scrutiny, international scrutiny on Israel, of course, far outmatches anything that was applied to Bashar Assad and Iran in Syria. Please.
Well, Mr. Edward P. Joseph, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights and your perspective on this.
You're welcome.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.